From where did Vedic revelation come, you may ask? Well, unlike Western traditions where revelation and inspiration is believed to come from God, the sacred revelation for the Vedas came from a sound. The rishis heard this sound, this sacred sound, and it would be through the oral medium that this wisdom would be passed on, generation after generation, like the father reciting the wisdom to his son or student in the corner of this slide. Recite, repeat, recite, repeat, recite, repeat, and eventual memorization. For centuries, this oral wisdom would be passed along orally before it would ever be written down. It is said that eventually this oral wisdom would be collected by Vyasa and then finally written down. For my classes, I have always been more interested in students understanding why the Vedas are so sacred over memorizing the many types. The Brahmin class initially refused to allow the Vedas to be written down. Why? Two reasons should be considered. One reason was related to control, not allowing any written text to be spread around and be interpreted incorrectly. This is analogous to a crisis that would happen in the West with Catholics and Protestants, but that's coming later. Another reason relates to a fear that if the revelations were written down, they would lose their sacred nature. The revelation started as a sound, and so must remain a sound. The 4 collections of Samhitas are listed on this slide. Although I am not asking you to necessarily memorize them, somewhat pointless for an online class, these 4 collections very much reflect the ideals and practices of the Vedic period. The written Vedas would eventually be organized into 4 major books or traditions. These 4 earliest Vedas are called Samhitas or collections. They are the Rig Veda, which has many hymns to gods and creation stories. The Sama Veda relate a great deal to the knowledge of the melodies used for chanting hymns. The Yajur Veda have many of the necessary formulas required for the proper performance of sacrifice. The last Veda, the Atharva, actually knowledge of Atharvan, a mythical sage, is quite different in its style and content. It has everything from magical formulas to philosophical speculation. Scholars have argued that the first 3 Vedas were Indo-European in origin, while the last being composed by the IVC. Overall, the Vedas, because of their sacrality, have remained a theoretical baseline for continued interpretation and reinterpretation throughout the history of Hinduism.